Hi there, Sam here with Ethan and Matt, aka Skankenstein, tonight, and we're talking about vampires and blues music, and yeah, or also Sinners, the film that came out I believe, about 3 months ago now, and stars Michael B. Jordan, and it's kind of like a blues musical vampire film. I had a lot of fun with it. I'll see what I know Matt did too. Actually, he seemed to because we talked a little bit about it, but we'll see what Ethan thought. Maybe he thought it was too much. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so that's what we're doing tonight. And let's see. You said you had a game, Matt.
I did. I did.
I don't know. Maybe you need Ethan's full concentration for the game, though.
Oh, can we get it back here?
Well,
Oh, look at that. He came
yeah,
prepared and everything.
I was a
Excellent,
geek
excellent.
at the movies the other day. Yeah, I was taking some notes. I'd seen it, but around the time it came out, so yeah, I was annoyed. That, yeah.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
So let's go.
So, okay, it's more of a trivia question. Like, can you independently name all 7 of the 7 deadly sins?
Ooh, okay.
And I will say for the record, once I thought of the question, stopped thinking about it because I wasn't sure. I started like trying to remember. So I am just as in the dark right now. I am as unprepared as you guys. Well, whether or not you believe me or not, but we'll give it a go as well. If somebody wants to hum the Jeopardy theme song, go for it. But you can write it down.
This would have been a good thing to do with the countdown clock, but too late for that.
Goes. Don't say them out loud as I'm ready then. And we're also not going to be super duper nitpicky about how Latin or anglicized your list is. Well, purely conceptual. Conceptual is what matters, not the precise name.
I got 5 really fast. I'm 2 away.
Yeah, I'm there also. I got 5 off the top of my head. Maybe give it about 1 more minute.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm sitting at 6 right now, and it's.
I think I must have conquered these last 2 because I can't even. I don't think there's any other ones. I only got trouble with 5. The other 2.
As far away from your mind as the east is from the west. That's the problem. I want to just go through my list and see if the 6th, 7th one pops in there, but that will just help you guys out.
I mean, I never learned these. Like, there was no this is all just like cultural transmission. I mean, I was so deep in evangelicalism, like we never talked about 7 deadly sins.
You watched 7, right? The Fincher movie. But actually, my church did did a series on them recently. That I'm still stuck at 5 here. So, all right. So, okay, let's go. Why don't what do you got there, Matt?
Okay. So I have pride, lust, envy, wrath, sloth, gluttony, and vainglory is the one I'm not confident about.
Vainglory.
Vainglory. It might be an old-timey word for envy. I'm not sure. Right with the current state of my mind.
Okay. What do you have, Ethan?
Well, I had gluttony, envy, pride, wrath, sloth.
Okay. You guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you both missed lust.
No, Matt had lust.
Oh, Matt had lust. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I've got lust, greed, wrath, or anger, sloth, pride, envy. Oh, yeah.
Isn't it just another form of gluttony though, just with money rather than food?
Yeah. Wait, so I'm trying to figure out which one I was missing then. So
go through your list again.
Lust, greed, wrath, sloth, pride, envy.
Gluttony.
Oh, Gluttony. Yes. Yeah.
Gluttony. No.
Okay. All right. So.
Uh,
Yeah.
my
So.
follow-up question was going to be if you could, I don't know, like remove one of those from the list, which one would you most like to have removed? But I feel like that's getting too personal too quickly.
Like it's not a sin anymore, or remove it from
Which
my
one,
life. Like
which one do you most want to get away with?
Oh, which one do I most want to get away with?
Pride.
Oh, you can rationalize that one all the time. Come on, man.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I guess we should talk at least a little bit about what, we presumably came here to discuss tonight. So, but I guess well, actually, I wanted to start with a question that's not directly related to the movie, but it's what, when you were growing up, was your relationship to rock music in your family? So was it something where your family didn't care that much about it, or they cared a lot? I mean, were there like restrictions on what you were listening to, or not really so much?
I could only listen to Christian rock. So like my friends and I had to like get Blink 182 CDs on our own and then like pass them back, and like we'd take like the front jackets out, and then we'd like burn the CD, and we'd like label the burn CD the wrong thing. So yeah, no, rock music was not particularly allowed. Besides Queen, because my dad liked Queen, so I listened to any Queen that I wanted.
I think you're muted, Matt. You're trying to talk.
Yeah. Give me 1 second here.
Matt's currently wrestling with the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah. The middle-aged man in the ocean here.
He's got a dolphin on the line.
Not quite.
Yes. Yeah, no, I guess I was thinking about that question, and yeah, so really, yeah, like Blink-182, like Jane's Addiction, like Nirvana, those kinds of things weren't really in my household when I was growing up, and I mean this was kind of pre-internet, so it's not like I necessarily knew all the bands that I was missing out on. I mean, I had friends and like we'd talk about music, and I mean, rock music was definitely still like the biggest thing in the culture for guys that were my age when I was in high school. I know around that time, like early 2000s, I was in high school from 2000 to 2004. I did hear some discussions about how supposedly hip hop was replacing rock around that time, like as the dominant cultural music. But that said, I mean, it was definitely rock music that most of the people I knew was listening to, like, I don't know, some terrible bands, and well, maybe some not so terrible bands like Linkin Park, Green Day, Evanescence, Creed. Those were kind of like the soundtrack of my high school years. My parents, so I don't think either one of them necessarily had any strong, like, moral objections to music, but my father actually is partially deaf in one ear, so he kind of prefers a quiet house, and his parents were sort of similar in that way too. But yeah, no, I think about it like as an adult, so I guess like the thing is, I'm not drawn to, I guess, what you might call sort of like the dark side of rock music. I mean, I know that music in general, it can heighten whatever emotion that you're having. I mean, it is a kind of drug. But like to me, I don't know, like the war on drugs is kind of like the platonic idea of a rock band. Like it's not vocal less. There's some vocals there, but like there's no like real like storytelling component to it necessarily. The vocals are just kind of almost like another instrument or another sound in the track. And so, I mean, I wouldn't say that I have a hard time with rock music, but I don't know, music definitely can take you to another place. It's something where, yeah, I mean, sometimes people do for sure. I don't know. Anything there you want to respond to, Matt?
Yeah, sure. I will say that I think my story is pretty much very similar to Ethan's, and I think kind of like the big rule again. The only kind of really criteria for judgment was like, what's in the lyrics. So the earliest mistake we learned to not make. Actually, this is much more my brother than I. He was the one who acted out, and I just got to like kind of eat the scraps from his table. But it was just don't ever leave liner notes lying around your room because mom and dad will find it, and then they will let you know.
Why don't you kind of explain what liner notes are? There might be
Oh
some
gosh! Oh my gosh!
Zoomers who are watching this who are like,
Before,
liner notes? What exactly is that?
before we even talk about liner notes, we have to talk about the magic of ripping cellophane off of a packaged CD and trying to figure out how to get the sticker that held the little plastic jewel cases closed. Like that was you want to talk about like millennial rituals? Like that is just like pure like anticipation, joy. And then do you guys remember the day that you learned the trick to get the sticker off easily? Do you know the trick?
Gosh, it's been so long, but I feel like I do remember going through this.
I
I am
remember
pretty
being
anti.
angry because I'd always mangle them. I could never get it right, so I probably don't know the trick.
Okay, so the trick is you I oh my gosh, I'm becoming a boomer in real time here, guys. You take
These are
you
definitely Gen X or millennial technology, but keep going.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So you got the stickers usually on the top, and you got the hinge on the top and the hinge on the bottom. If you pull the hinge from the bottom and flip the plastic sheet up, the sticker comes right off, and then you just peel it off with the front. It's hard to communicate verbally, but if you had one in your hands, you'd be like, oh,
Huh.
yeah. That's like, yeah, yeah. The person who showed that to me is like a wizard.
Hmm. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Um, but yes, the liner notes are every. So back in my day, like music wasn't just a thing you downloaded, kids. It was a physical product that was digitally encoded onto these metal discs or plastic discs. I guess I don't know what they are. Who cares? Um, and the thing is, the music itself was not the only part of the artwork. Part of it was also having some visual artists do a cool cover for your album. And inside of the album will be usually the lyrics to all of the songs that were on the CD, which is the thing that would get us, a supposedly good evangelical kids in trouble if they had the wrong lyrics in there. So, yeah, so the liner notes are where you have all of the lyrics. And if there were cuss words in those lyrics, you were in trouble. At least I was in trouble.
Yeah, better make sure you take care of that parental advisory sticker.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, like, as we push like genres, there came a point in time where even like form was an issue. So if you got into like even like thoroughly orthodox, good kid Christian like metal or screamo bands, just the facet of like that particular kind of screaming was you typically a bridge too far. Anyway. But yeah, again, it's sort of the typical kind of like evangelical criticism is like all that matters is the information, the content, the form that it's wrapped in. What the music invites you to do with your body is secondary, if even like actually taken notice of.
Yeah, that is interesting because I think of some of like the weird mashups of like aggressive versus sacred music that was in Christian rock of the early 2000s and late 90s. And like I think of, for example, are you familiar with the Insiders hymn album?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you explain what this is, Matt? It's one of the more crazy cultural artifacts from the early 2000s Christian music.
So, so in the late '90s, we had in broader American culture what is called the third wave ska revival. Ska is this music genre that originated in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, and
Are you
yeah, no,
smuggling ska into this conversation? Is this even
he
relevant?
lately fed this up to me on a silver platter. I don't think Sam even quite knew how much he was teeing me up here. But anyway, like once it gets to, so it started off as yeah, sort of like a Jamaican kind of like very Caribbean infused like dance music in the dance halls. The second way was the went over to Britain, and it kind of like came into contact with early kind of like proto punk stuff like the Clash and whatnot, and then finally you get into the broader kind of like California skate punk scene melt. So it's very fast, fun, kind of upbeat music. And the Insiders were one of the kind of like Christian bands that were at the forefront of the Christianization of every musical movement that happened in the '90s and the 2000s. And so they had two albums, Scalaluya and Scalaluya 2, which were a series of songs that you would sing in your evangelical church, put to a ska, put into the meter of ska.
Well, they weren't just like songs though. Like if I'm saying something off, correct me. But they were like traditional hymns. So
yes,
like they
yes.
Amazing Grace, and it would be like Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Like that's what it would be like. Like every song kind of sounded the same, actually. Gosh, yeah.
Well, that was the first one. The second one, I think they kind of like had were a little more accustomed to like performing music. There's a lot more variety. The first one was very much one note, and they were much more on the kind of like angry, aggressive side of the like the punk scene.
Yeah. So if you've ever listened, if you've ever listened to "How Great Thou Art" and thought the song's not angry enough, there might be an album for you in the world.
Yep.
Oh god. But yeah. So Sinners, though. What were your takeaways from it? I guess I talked a very little bit about it, but just the initial reactions off the top.
Initially, I just left the theater like smiling. I was just so cinematically satisfied. I was just like, it's the first movie I'd like legitimately enjoyed kind of front to back that thoroughly in a long time.
So I guess we're kind of getting into spoilers here a little bit, but did you watch all of the end cap scenes? Or there was like I think 3 of them actually. Yeah, 3.
I'm not sure if I did. I think I did the second time around, and I think I also left. At what point do they stop? Does it?
I mean, that's the question. Like, how do you even know if you saw them all? Also,
so there were. There's 3 of them, and there was a very the third one actually didn't really have that much plot component, but that is a fair point if you're in the theater. So I was. I
don't think anybody missed like the first one, which is where they go to the club in Chicago, right? That's the first one?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the second one loosely? Remind me.
Well, I guess there's actually the extended kind of first one, but then there's at the very end, Miles Catton, he does like the steel guitar version of "Little Light of Mine," and there's a couple songs there too that are interesting too. Okay, so
that's right.
Yeah, the music really was it was good in this movie. I'll give it that for sure. Even if like maybe you have kids or you're thinking like, oh, I don't know if this is a movie for me, I would strongly recommend looking up the soundtrack.
Soundtrack is fine. It's also really interesting how the movie contextualizes his singing of "This Little Light of Mine." Because that puts in a whole different register from if you were singing it in Sunday school.
Ethan, what were your thoughts?
I left annoyed.
You left annoyed. Okay, all right. That's
go on.
That's an emotion. That's not nothing.
I mean, like, I thought the use of Southern Gothic was awesome. So I left being like, I wish there were more films with this setting. Um, I just thought like the vampire stuff was like annoyingly postmodern, I guess, where it was like a very on the nose critique, but then the critique didn't like develop into anything interesting for me.
Hmm.
Where I was like, okay, cool, I get it. And then it was like, oh no, that's all you have to say is just like, okay, okay. Um, and then I just felt like it was like four different movies that never connected for me. I wanted like the plots to all go together. And so like the use of music was awesome. And I kept waiting for like the use of music to be how they beat back the vampires. And that never happened. And then I didn't stay around for these end cap scenes because I didn't know it was a Marvel movie. I guess I should have known because Michael B. Jordan was in it and it was Ryan Coogler, but I missed that memo. So
Well, so I'm watching it a second time, and the vampires, they don't show up until well over an hour into the film, really. I guess there's like one scene where it kind of, I don't know, foreshadows the vampires, but they're really not present for a big chunk of the film. And I do actually think that that's kind of maybe in some ways actually the weakest part of it. But at the same time, gosh, it's kind of amazing that this movie got made at all. But I don't know how you make it without the vampires, or you make it without some kind of action film element. I feel like.
See, I will agree with you that honestly, like the first half of the movie is kind of the more interesting movie. I enjoyed the second half for different reasons, but I definitely do like agree that it felt like it. I can think of again at least three different movies, because especially like at the very very end when it kind of like brings back around to one of the characters from the beginning as they come back to the what was it? I don't remember what the building was beforehand. It was sort of like. I feel like that kind of like the final shootout that he had at the middle of the day it didn't lay enough track for that one. I felt like the movie should be over, and I'm like, what is this?
So strange.
like yeah, exactly. I didn't feel whatever kind of like vindictive triumph he was supposed to feel, because they just completely forgot about that plot line for almost 2 hours before bringing it back.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is true. That he does kind of, the white guy who may or may not be a member of the KKK sort of randomly shows up near the end. Yeah, so well, I guess that maybe to give a little bit of table setting for the film. So it's, about it's about the Mississippi Delta blues, and even though actually, so Michael B. Jordan's kind of the lead actor in the film. I think he's the one with the most screen time, but the plot actually centers more around this character, Sammy, played by Miles Catton, who I've never seen him in another film. I guess he's a backup singer for her. He's kind of a young guy, and it starts out with him, and he's at his father's church. His father, Jed, is a minister on this plantation. It's sort of implied that there's basically, it seems like a pretty large place, but there's basically one church there. And and he's showing up. Sammy is the day after it starts at the end, and he's you can tell he's been through something. You're not sure what exactly, and he comes in with the steel guitar to the church service, and his father basically says, "Hey, you don't have to go through this. You can give this up." And I guess I had a few thoughts in my head. So, like, one of my first thoughts was, why, from the perspective of the movie, not in like some ultimate sense, but from the perspective of the movie, well, I guess I'll ask two parts. One, is his father wrong, and why is his father wrong? because I mean, there's a part of me that I think about what happens in the sawmill, and I kind of think that in some ways, like this might be like low key one of like the most puritanical movies Hollywood's ever made. So, but maybe I'm completely off. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Like, what? Why is his father? Well, what's the nature of the conflict? Is his father wrong, and why is he wrong if he is?
See, this is I think another kind of moment where the movie didn't quite lay enough track for this to land, because I think it was a solid opening to the movie, starting again like with him reacting to what the rest of the movie is about to be about, coming in like just horror stricken from whatever happened Saturday night on Sunday morning, and his father is trying to save his soul. And at least at the very beginning, like it might feel a little bit ominous, but like it definitely seems like his father is on the side of the light, the side of the good. He is genuinely trying to like help him and save him. And had he followed his father's advice, he wouldn't have gone through the horror that he's about to go through. So good.
Well, here's what I think is I think that the movie is from the standpoint of a post-Christian America, so that to be a Christian is like a silly notion. So the movie assumes you think being religious is like silly and ridiculous. And so the boy is like obviously being burdened by a religious father. That's the way I read the film's intentions.
But the movie
goes out.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt. I think you might be saying something very similar, but go ahead.
I was gonna say the movie goes out of its way to say that like there's no kind of like fatal flaw in his father. He is fundamentally a good man, and particularly a good man who emerged from kind of a rough past. And so like there's no reason to think that he's any kind of like a hypocrite. Anybody who is like his only sin is trying to take the blues out of his boy or rescue his boy from the blues.
Yeah, I was going to say it's interesting. So I think the idea that it's from a post-Christian perspective is right. But I also think that the film takes spirituality hyper seriously, almost, I would say almost comically so at some points. Like to the point of like kind of like a parody. But I don't know. His father's definitely so he's not the minister from Footloose, right? I mean, he definitely has a little bit more nuance, but he's also, even though he's one of the characters that propels the plot, he's not really that present in the film. But I guess what's the conflict though exactly? Like what's wrong with the blues? Well, I guess it is the devil's music and sort of the typology of the Southern Gothic mythology. But besides that, I mean, where's the conflict? Because I think there is some conflict there. But yeah, it's definitely a thought I had in my mind, though.
I don't know if there's anything, like from my experience, that there's like inherently wrong with the music. I think his concern is more the places where you play the music. It's the people that you play the music to, where your audience is, what else is going on while you're playing your music. It's the concern about getting caught, like, because you have to play it at the nightclubs where all these other like legitimate vices are on display. It's a definite concern that you'll get caught up in all of these other soul-destroying things like gambling and drinking and womanizing, and etc.
Yeah, I mean, even before the vampires show up, I mean, the vampires actually don't draw the first blood in the nightclub. It's actually, there's a guy who pulls a knife out. So you do get the impression that it's kind of a rough place. And so, yeah, I guess I should maybe, I don't know, just in case there's somebody who didn't see the film, kind of go over the plot a little bit, which is so the main character, Sammy, he has his his cousins, Smoke and Stack. So it's Michael B. Jordan, and he's playing twins. He's playing two characters, and Smoke is the one who's wearing blue, and he's a little bit more hot-headed. Like there's a few moments where he pulls a gun and shoots someone in the film, and then Stack is a little bit more business-minded, maybe a little bit. More a little less of a hothead, but it's very much on a continuum, and it's very clearly like two sides of like the same person in a way, even in like a literal sense. It's played by one person. And anyways, so Smoke and Stack, they had been in Chicago. It's implied they were involved with the mafia, even though you don't really see any of those people. The whole film is set in the Mississippi Delta, and they're setting up a club, and that was I believe it was a sawmill, and that's where most of the, I don't know, like the climactic parts of the film take place.
Yeah. Just to throw a couple more bits onto kind of like the characterization, because I think they matter. I think a couple of things that really kind of come out in a lot of the early interactions with the Smoke character of Blue is he is very explicitly like a materialist. Like his girlfriend that not even girlfriend, almost like ex-wife or whatnot, a woman that he had a child who did not survive birth with. So the mother of his dead child. She is the shaman figure, I guess, and he's very explicit about the fact that he does not believe in the efficacy of spirits or anything like that. She had given him some sort of like protective magical amulet to wear. He both wore it on account of her, but didn't believe it was doing anything for him. He's very explicit, like the only power he believes in is money, which is also interesting thinking about the way that money forms a different kind of spiritual power on the level of the other creatures.
But then money actually betrays them too, right? In a kind of weird plot turn, because so they're setting up the speakeasy or the juke joint or whatever 1930s term you want to use for a prohibition bar, and they're setting up on this plantation. And one of the issues that they have is that they're getting this money, which they call wooden nickels. So it's plantation money. And I guess they're concerned that they get this money, but they can't go anywhere or do anything with it. It's going to be, you can use it in a few places, but not that many. And that because of that, the business isn't going to be a viable thing going forward. Yeah.
Right, because that only works in like within the community of people that are paid by the plantations. So it's worthless in them trying to pay back their debts that they're incurring. Like they can't use those wooden nickels for rent.
Yeah. But so they set it up, and then there's the scene in the middle of the movie, which is probably the most talked about scene. Well, what do you think? Should we go into details about what happens there? Because I feel like you've either seen it or you haven't, and I kind of don't want to spoil it if there's people watching this who haven't seen it.
Oh, I say just spoil everything.
Spoil it? Okay.
I think we'll just assume that they've watched it. I mean, like the first half of the movie is essentially they go on this series of like Smoke and Stack are just going through this entire community and just seducing a half a dozen different people into following them into their den of sin for the night. They're trying to lure people away from better opportunities. So it's this, I don't know, like study in temptation. They're trying to convince a piano player to join them. They're trying to convince a bouncer to join them. They've got to get Sammy on their side, and a couple other folks. So it's just this, all the different kind of like levers that you can use to convince people to ignore their better judgment. Which everyone's like, I should not do this, but you convince me for one reason or another. Yeah. And the money usually helps in a lot of those cases.
Yeah. So Sammy, he gets on the stage and he's playing the steel guitar, and there's this kind of monologue about how which is a callback to the very beginning of the film, where it talks about him being a shaman, and he's playing the guitar, and as he's playing the steel guitar, and to kind of get some context, this guy is Miles Canton. He's 19 years old. He's kind of a small guy, actually, but he has this like amazing baritone singing voice, which takes you completely by surprise. And then as he's playing it, there's this overlay of, I guess, what you would call a DJ mix. I don't know how else you would explain it. And as he's playing it, and there's a voiceover about the shamanistic quality of the music, there's all of these artists from like different eras and different parts of the world, mostly Black artists, so not all. There's at least one Chinese lady who's dancing, who kind of come forward into this 1930s juke joint that's set up in the sawmill, and it's the thing is, the film before this scene is very it's hard to maybe put into words exactly, but it's very grounded, and it's like very much shot like and set like a historical epic. And then you hear the guitar drop, and you see this like all these other things that are going around him as he's playing, and it's probably it's one of the most memorable musical numbers in any Hollywood film, certainly this century. I don't it was, and really it's kind of the way it's kind of like the apex of the film too, because also it's a plot where he brings forth the dead, right, and both literally and figuratively, because there's, as he plays it, there's the, I believe, Irish vampires that are drawn to the music also. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. It's the idea that like for him, like as a like there are certain like spiritually gifted musicians whose I guess like their charism, their gift for playing their particular instrument is so spiritually potent that it can draw both the past and the future together
hmm,
in
yeah.
their like ecstatic moments of. But the thing is, that sort of kind of like raw expression of spiritual power also attracts other people who are interested in your gifts for other reasons.
Hmm, yeah. I mean, vampires, if you will.
Right?
Yeah. But so I was kind of curious. One of the thoughts I had was the guitar that he's playing. I don't play any instruments, as I guess some of my Mexican friends have said, and it doesn't translate very well. But I only knock the door. So, but
Hmm.
yeah, but I guess from what I understand, though, on the steel guitar, there are quite a few more chords than there are on definitely a bass guitar, but also an electric, the kind of electric guitar that a musician plays in a rock band. Or, I don't know.
Couldn't tell you one way or the other.
Okay, all right. Well, I didn't think. Ethan was a musician. I didn't know if you were at all, but okay. Well, man, if only we had a musician here. No, that's fine. But no, I get this as a spare time thing, and I'm happy for whenever I get anyone's time here. But yeah. So, but anyways, the scene though, it's quite.
We should just drop a number of horrendous takes that like requires him to make a response video.
Jimmy Eat World is the worst band ever. They're just terrible. Like, I want to bludgeon my eyes when I listen to them.
Nobody agrees with you. Like, that is like literally that's one of the most like universally beloved like early aughts like records out there. Everybody loves Jimmy Eat World.
I think bands should stop using guitars. I think guitars are just not needed for bands.
Yeah. Well, like
Only
whatever
piano
that
driven.
whatever that string instrument that was played like on the House of Woo that Mark Parker opens up with, like I think it's some kind of Buddhist like service or ceremony. Like rock bands should start using that as their lead instrument.
More sitars in punk bands, please.
Gosh, yeah, but yeah. So how is the shaman different from the priest? That was another very like TLC kind of question that I had in my head because they're not exactly the same, and in fact, sometimes there might even be a conflict between the two.
So, I mean, if we want to pull out like symbolic world Pajot things, I'm not sure if this really kind of helps us like figure out where the priest versus the shaman is. But I think in like in the context of this movie, having this idea of like the center versus the fringe is really really important. I think one of the things the movie does do is, or at least kind of leads into, is the idea that like Sammy's preacher father he's the minister. He is at the center of the community. He's at the building that's got the steeple. That is the thing that under ideal circumstances community should revolve around. Whereas Sammy is going to go not play his guitar in church like he's usually doing and expected to do, but he is going outside of town to the edges of town to play amongst the people that are more disordered. They're more driven by their passions. And at the edge of the community is where you are then most liable to encounter those on the beyond the community, the demonic, the spirits, the dark powers. So I know maybe you want to make an argument that like a priest is a shaman in the center of the community versus on the fringe. I don't really know enough about like shamanism specifically to make a lot of comments on shamans specifically, but I think that kind of like the spaces of order versus spaces of chaos are significant.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I mean, I think a priest like maintains the house of God. Like the priest works with God in a specific dwelling place. Whereas I kind of feel like the shaman just like wherever you are, the shaman just sends a human into the spirit world, and it's just like kind of good luck. Like you're gonna go for a ride, there's gonna be a trip, like where we're not working. Yeah, and that's exactly what you're saying. We're not working within the confines of like where God dwells. We're out here on the fringe of the chaos. So yeah, chaos order. That's a good line to draw.
Yeah. I guess if we're using kind of like biblical categories, you have the priest versus like the prophet. The priest is in the temple at the center of town. The prophets are typically associated with the wilderness. So I guess you could say Sammy is a prophetic musician if we're using biblical terms.
So I'm still thinking about Sammy's dad because, and I'm wondering if it's as simple as like black spirituality is good and white spirituality is bad. Maybe that's too like stark of a contrast, but like, I don't think there's any. I think all of the white characters are villains.
So part of, I mean,
Go ahead, Matt. No, I was going to say the vampires are actually a little bit complicated there because they don't seem to be part of whatever is going on because it's sort of implied at one point in the movie that they might be part of the KKK group, but they're it seems like pretty clear by the end of the film that they're not. And while what they offer, it's a deal with the devil, right? I mean, they don't lie. They offer immortality, right? But then what is the cost of that, right? I mean, it was Stack says at the end of the movie, I haven't seen my brother and I haven't seen the sunset in like 60 years or however long. Or actually what he says is that was the last time I saw my brother and the last time I saw the sun, right?
yeah. So I think part of it could be just it's underdeveloped in the text of the movie. But if part of the concern is that Sammy needs to protect his authentic musical soul from being captured by the stand-ins for like white record label executives and whatnot,
Yeah.
from being like domesticated soul. I think the idea might be that Sammy's father has allowed himself to be colonized by white man's religion. But
Because
again, that's
that's what I
under
was like.
it's
The record label thing. Go ahead.
underdeveloped. It's underdeveloped in the text of the movie, and if you have like a decently kind of complicated kind of like understanding of kind of like the tradition of like African American Christianity in America, it's not that simple. It could just be that he's playing in like broad like cartoon character tropes, effectively.
Yeah, because I resonated a lot with the idea that like the black music was being that there were vampires here to leech like that. I was like, I'm tracking with this, but then the portrayal of Christianity, I couldn't figure out the mapping. And even in this conversation, I'm going, yeah, I can't, I like, because it's not quite as simple as like, oh, the Christians are vampires. But then, and well, I'm jumping forward in the plot a little bit, but like when Sammy makes it out and goes home to dad, like the choice he makes confuses me, I guess, because then I couldn't. I was very much at a loss for what the film was trying to portray as like this is good, this is bad, this is the way someone should move in the world, and I guess it didn't. That's why I left annoyed because I felt like the film itself didn't even put forward anything. And I guess I didn't find it as an interesting complexity. I felt like maybe underdeveloped is a good word. Where I was like, there's some interesting things here, but I'm just not sure what you're saying. So I feel like whatever you're trying to say, it didn't hit it for me, which doesn't mean it didn't hit it, but
Yeah. Well, I think as a plot or as a narrative, it's maybe in some ways unclear or a little bit underdeveloped. I don't think it's necessarily intentionally vague. Like sometimes you watch films, like I think of the other film I've done a little bit of commentary on the channel, Taxi Driver, and there's like plot points in there which are intentionally vague. Like Scorsese's just like, nope, I don't care about this. I'm not going to put this in the movie. You're just going to have to figure out whether this actually happened or this didn't. And I don't think that's going on quite here, but there's a lot of shadowing and characters that are in some ways underdeveloped. I was thinking about it today when I was watching over some parts of it, and the characters, and I'd be interested to know if this is historically accurate or not. In the church, they're all wearing white, like all of them. And interestingly, when Stack sees his I guess his lover, the mother of his child, at the end of the film, she's also wearing white too. It's this like cotton kind of color. And so there's this idea that it's pure, but it's also maybe very stolen. I think that's the right word I'm looking for. It's not very innovative or forward-looking in a way. It's about preserving what's there. It's not necessarily about reaching towards the future or forward thinking in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how like historically accurate or not like everyone in church wearing white is. It is. I think what's more important is how like affective it is on a cinematic level. Just the visuals.
Oh yeah, it's a compelling image. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's like to kind of what you're getting, Ethan, about like how his decision to like hold on to the blues in spite of everything that happened over the last 24 hours it's baffling to me still. Like I don't know if they just didn't show us enough of like why that would still be that valuable to him in spite of everything that has happened.
I'm kind of thinking off the top of my head here. Are there basically any Hollywood movies where a character has a conflict with faith and then chooses to come to faith at the end of the film? Because it seems like they always step away. That's kind of the Hollywood archetype.
I mean, first off, I don't think you have too many movies where that kind of choice is really kind of dramatically pushed to the forefront. Like, or at least like there's a cult of faith that's an explicitly religious one that they're wrestling with.
Yeah, that is true. I think it may be Leap of Faith. One of PVK's favorite movies comes to mind. Yeah, but I don't know. Don't get me started on that. I kind of want to throw things at my computer screen when Catholics complain about portrayals of their church in movies.
Well, this is also just one of those things where like this is just like part of a movie is they have to make a movie that that to a certain extent rides with cultural expectations for how a story is supposed to end appropriately. One of my professors in grad school, he did missionary work in Japan for like a decade, and he would make the comment that like every time you're at this moment where a character's in like crisis between like being true to their authentic self and kind of like going back home and like obeying mom and dad and stopping dancing like the Footloose pastor says. In America, the stories always end with that character figuring out some way to be true to themselves and their community respecting them despite that. All the films in Japan are the exact opposite. They all are wrestling and struggling with how to be their authentic selves, and they eventually see the light and learn that it's best to live in conformity with your community and sacrifice your desires for the sake of the group.
That's not a very blues message, though, is it?
Oh, that's why the blues came out of America and not Japan, I guess.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure things are different now, and you guys have been thoroughly westernized, and we've ruined you too. But welcome.
Cheap Trick is very popular in Japan, I hear. Or at least they were in the 80s. At the end of the movie, did either one of you recognize Buddy Guy right away, or did you have to look that up? I had to look that up.
No, I didn't recognize him right away. I figured if I looked up, I'd recognize the name. But I mean, like, how many musicians do you know based off of their face versus their music?
I would recognize B.B. King, but yeah, in general, yes. But of course, B.B. King's not with us anymore, so
So he would be perfect to play a vampire in a vampire movie.
That would be pretty amazing. I don't think the CGI's quite got there yet, are they?
No, they're there. I mean, like digitally reconstructing like Princess Leia and Tarkin in that one Star Wars movie, the Andor one. Yeah,
but they don't really talk though or interact with people, do they? Because like I remember there's like
no, not Leia, but Peter Cushing was totally digitally resurrected with speaking roles and everything.
So
there's a guy that plays like the guys that plays Peter Cushing playing Grand Moff Tarkin because Peter Cushing is dead.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, like I remember like the one Terminator when Schwarzenegger was the governor at the time, and like they recreated the Terminator in CGI, but it looked just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and like that's like about the closest I could think of. Of course, yeah, there were some scenes I believe with Carrie Fisher too. Like in the Star Wars films, but
I mean, have you not seen the state of deepfakes on Twitter? Like the things that the videos that it will conjure up just based off of a text prompt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe we need to send a note to Ryan Coogler that it should have been BB King at the end of the film. But so fun side note: have either one of you listened to the Buddy Guy single that's come out this year?
No.
So he made it in correlation. This is completely true with a Christian rock band. And I don't know. I do kind of wonder if maybe it was designed as a song that was swapped out for the end of Sinners. It's Last Man Standing. And why don't each of you take a quick guess? Like, what Christian rock band do you think would make a song with Buddy Guy?
I have no idea.
I am. Jeez. I'm trying to figure out like who'd have the kind of like the credibility to call that up.
Switchfoot.
Oh, ding, ding, ding. We have a winner, actually.
Really?
Yes,
That was
seriously. I don't know if
Wow.
you're just listening to Famous Man, but yes, it was switched.
Yeah,
But they,
It's
Last Man Standing. I won't play it on here, but I'd encourage, because I don't want to get booted off of YouTube, but I'd encourage, people to look it up. So it's a pretty great track. And given what it's about, I do sort of suspect it might have been associated. The fact that it's a single, it wasn't on an album or anything, leads me to believe it could have been associated with Sinners. But what other thoughts did either one of you have, if any, about the movie? I think we I feel like there's things we did talk about, but I think we hit on the things that I was interested in anyways.
okay. Do you have anything specific, Ethan?
I was going to say, like, you think Smoke and Stack are heroes or villains?
They're sinners, right? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's tough because we're supposed to kind of admire them, but they're reckless, right? Yeah.
Again, like Sammy is our POV character, so it's the question of like you've got his dad who's the angel on his one shoulder and Smoke and Stack are the devil on the other shoulder, and it's like who is he gonna listen to? And so I think part of the movie is him getting caught up in the charisma of his cousins, is being young and not fully being able to kind of like count the cost. But
Well, it is the blue and the red too, right? So there's a way in which even their colors are kind of, I'm thinking about it now, go with the devil and the angel.
yeah, but also again, like was it Ixnal was just saying those sound like villain names. You also learn at the very end of the movie their given names are Elijah and Elias. So again, they have properly Christian names.
Huh.
But
Interesting. Actually, let's pull out the red a little bit because I'm thinking about it now. So we're talking about how the shaman or the bluesman, if you will, in the context of the film, is kind of the one on the edge, and in terms of biblical imagery that relates to the prophet or the prophetic voice. And then, of course, who were the two people that brought Sammy, which, if you will, Samuel, another prophet name, into the blues, if you will. Elijah and Elias. But yeah.
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 Well, I mean, to fully make this like corner material, like Ethan and I were quibbling a little bit on PBK's video comments about how to like what trope do we name Jordan Peterson as? I was commenting on Sartori talking about how like asking the question like you see a John the Baptist figure, which I think that's the best archetype, and Ethan called it like more of like Abraham because he has so many children. But for me, I don't think he can count as an Abraham. Jordan Peterson can't because he continually lives on the fringe. And I'm trying to think like how many like actual like prophetic
Hmm.
ministries are also known for their children. There's not many that I can think of.
Hmm. Yeah. I, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Jordan Peterson's more somebody who's made a few enemies, and maybe maybe someone who's a little bit more, I don't know, known for being kind of a bit of a gab, like Isaiah comes to mind. Yeah, if we're going there, but yeah. So
There's
you had
definite
another.
like
Sorry, go
a
ahead.
lot. I say there's definitely like Elijah and the prophets of Baal sort of energy kind of exuding off of him.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is good, but that the kind of person who is, I think it's really, really hard to locate in the same individual the kind of person who is willing to entirely face down a culture you view as corrupt, and also being the kind of person who is going to build up the culture afterwards. To be so capable of being completely and totally against civilization as it currently stands, I think that kind of like personality type is not the kind that you want laying the foundation for the next room. They're the bulldozer, not the bricklayer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. To bring in my other kind of corner thing that I've been involved with, the Bonhoeffer videos, and you read them in there. There definitely is an element where you kind of think like, man, I don't know if this is a guy I would want to deal with at Synod, for example, right? There's some anger and some passion, but at the same time, he he's trying to wake people up who are asleep, and I think of that, and I think of the prophet, or maybe the martyr too, and the kind of people who are who God raises up for that kind of calling. And I mean, at the same time, I mean, yeah, the prophetic voice is important, and we need to heed it. But I mean, God talks back to Jonah and Elijah too, right? I mean, he basically tells them, "Hey, get in line. There's other things that in the world that you're not seeing, and there's more reason to be hopeful than you have right now." Uh, But but you had something else about the movie you wanted to go over, Matt.
Yeah. It happens all close to the very end, so I don't want to kind of lead off with it. But this was the part of the movie that was kind of like most like affecting, like kind of like hit me the hardest and kind of left me unsettled. And that is sort of like the final kind of confrontation with Rebic, the vampire, after he's thrown out of like the out of the barn, and he's standing in the lake, and they're walking towards him. And Sammy is at this point like completely alone. The army of vampires in front of him, and he starts reciting the Lord's Prayer. And vampires as a monster, kind of classically, like they're Christian sacramental monsters, where like faith and the elements of the church are things that are able to repel them, the things that are effective against them. But when he starts again reciting the Lord's Prayer as a way of kind of warding them off, Remick as an entire army recite it with him. And then says, effectively, like, the people that turned me into a vampire, they use that to put me down the way that they're putting your culture down now. I didn't quite know how to feel about that.
Can you say that again?
Well, like Remick the vampire, like he recites the Lord's Prayer along with him, which again, according to standard vampire lore, should have kind of like turned his tongue on fire or something like that. But effectively, Remick says that the people that turned me, cast me off of my family's lands the same way they're casting you off your family's lands now, using the same words, the same magical incantation.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should say too that I don't know if they ever say it specifically in the film, but Remick is coded as an Irish character.
Yes, explicitly.
Yep. So and there's a number of scenes where they're
He
singing
sings Rocky Road to Dublin.
Yes, exactly. They sing these kind of like very traditional kind of Irish kind of Gaelic
Yeah.
songs that at first the people at Juke Joint are like, what's that? But then through their vampire cuttings after they've killed a few of the people who are listening to the blues and the gospel music, they start to get some bass in their music too. So that's kind of interesting thing. So yeah, I could be, if I'm off here, you guys tell me, but I sense almost as much passion or maybe more passion about the music in this movie than like a lot of like the characters or like the plot per se. No, I mean, in some ways the plot's a little bare bones.
Yeah, no, it's much more kind of character driven than plot driven. And it's fine because there's a lot of like lovely kind of character portrayals.
Okay. All right. So, all right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. For people that are watching, I guess real quickly, 1, 2, 3, thumbs up or thumbs down from all of us for the film. 1, 2, 3.
I enjoyed it.
Okay. All right.
Oh.
Okay. Half thumb for Ethan. Okay. What would have made it a little bit better from your perspective, Ethan?
I mean, for like the music stuff was really interesting, and like I thought there was. So Sammy plays guitar at church, right? Do you play guitar at the church?
At the end, he does for sure. I don't think he plays as part of the service though.
But he had in the past, like he was part of the choir. He demonstrated. There's a scene where he demonstrates that he knows his Bible well, and I think at least it alludes to like you played music for us before, and like says like this is where your music belongs.
Yeah. So
and so there's this sense that like when Sammy plays the guitar and like brings the past and the future into the present, that like that can't happen with his father in the church. Like he almost has to, he can only do that with the sinners. But then the vampires show up who are like also coded as Irish Christian. And I cannot track like even what the film wants to say about sinners. I can't like make heads or tails of, are you saying, hey, it's good to be sinners? Or are you saying you shouldn't be a sinner? Because Sammy seems to choose the path of sinners to continue on to go and play in bars. But then the depiction of like the juke joint is also like, oh, we're gambling in here. There's multiple affairs happening. And I'm like, are you arguing for the gambling and the affairs as necessary for the magical power of musical transformation? But then the music isn't used as a weapon against the vampires. So I just like, I was left with a jumble of things. And I went, I'm glad I watched the film. I wouldn't say like, oh, it's a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. I just don't know how to untangle the jumble of themes and characters and events that occurred in the time span.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll be frank. I was a little bit hesitant to even talk about these kinds of things. But I think if you think of it in a historical context and you think of the idea of the Great Migration and urbanization in the second half of the 20th century and all the things that happened with that. And I mean, the plantation is tough as it seems. Like it actually seems like a fairly stable place and like a community where people know each other and support each other, even though there is this like element of oppression there too, because there's the people that they buy the sawmill from, right? And of course, I mean, you talk about money, there's another through line. I mean, when he says, "Oh, do you have money?" Like he's asking, I think in part, do you have the right money? Because like he almost like looks a little bit surprised when they bring the money out, right? But they've been to Chicago, right? They've been to the city, and they have the the proper currency, so to speak. And yeah, I guess you think of the dual tracks. At least I do in African American life, where there's been an increasingly more civil rights and freedoms, but there's also been some dark things, at least in the context of the city, right? I mean, that's not everywhere, or all families, or even most, but it's definitely a thought that I had in my head.
Yeah. I will say, like, so the sinners, there is natural consequences that do fall down upon their heads as a result of their sins. Even outside of like the actual like supernatural judgment that swoops down on the sawmill, there is still like heavily insinuated that like it was a gamble them trying to open up their juke joint. It was not at all certain that this gamble was going to pay off, and if they were not able to pay back their debts, the fact that what do they notice that they have Italian wine and Irish beer and like you were not working for the same people. I wonder how the Italians feel about you drinking their wine and the Irish drinking your beer. Are they going to follow you down from Chicago? All those sorts of things where it's like they are like yeah, their sins are going to come back to find them. So I think I'm not. So for the movie, like particularly the character of Sammy, like honesty, authenticity is definitely like of value. This movie seems to say that like it's good that you're true to your authentic self, and sometimes that means embracing at least as far as like the director's concerned, that means being honest about your sinfulness, embracing your dark side, refusing to hide it, owning up to that. Although that's not in any sort of like confession way, but just this is just what I am.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I think the film definitely had, even though there were times I wondered how much it was actively thinking through them as much as it was just kind of played around with archetypes. It had enough ideas in it that I wanted to talk more about it and think more about it. Which, I mean, that is a sign that they were onto, I think, something. Yeah, I'll say actually more with more with Black Panther than this film. There was a bit of my left brain part that was watching it and thinking like, wait, how does this add up, or how does this make sense? It kind of drove me a little bit insane. And yeah, I can't speak to. I probably should watch some Fruitvale Station or the Creed movies. Um, but I kind of wonder if I'd have a similar experience watching those. But no, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for both of you for coming on. Any closing thoughts or things you want to go over, either one of you, or?
Well, Skank's got me thinking now about that final scene that was affecting to him. So I'm sure I'll be chewing on that for a day or two.
All right. Well, I mean, if you have something, feel free. I mean, I'm not on a tight time schedule here.
I'd say if you are the book reading type, when I first saw the movie, it reminded me of this book, the Cross and the Lynching Tree by James Cone. And that book also talks a lot about the blues and the roles that it played in, Southern African American society. And so he, I think, explicitly kind of like talks about that kind of like that duality. I didn't find the time to pick it up again and leaf through what he said, but I'm pretty sure if I'm halfway remembering this book correctly, it would be an interesting kind of companion piece to the movie if you have that handy. The Cross and the Lynching Tree by James Cone.
Let's see.
I guess my final thought is maybe the film is trying to say that like music is a worthy religion, the highest thing unto itself, and specifically the blues, because the blues is that which is capable of uniting the past, the present, and the future. So, yeah, I guess that's my final thought.
Yeah. Well, music is powerful, right? I mean, that's definitely it's fire, and I mean, it could, yeah. If it's not in its proper place, it can definitely bring up things and create things that, yeah. Um, wait, is Ixnop played with us? Is this a real thing? There's a movie called Crossroad with Ralph Macchio.
No, I don't think Ixnon's playing. I think he's serious.
No, I think he's too, but I never heard of this. I mean, how is Ralph Macchio in a film about the blues? Ixon, come on, tell us about this. I dropped the link.
Can't say that I'm terribly
to see
up
your
to
beautiful
date.
face, but not me.
Can't say I've exactly like thoroughly explored the Machio back catalog. I will say.
I'll have to look that up. Well, I mean, I know Crossroads and the Robert Johnson legend, so to speak, and that's maybe was popularized by Eric Clapton. There's, I think, like Slash has done a version of Crossroads, and I mean, a lot of rock musicians have. But yeah, I wasn't aware that. Yeah, there was a film about the Crossroads with Ralph Macchio. So I'll have to look that up. I'm tempted to like go dual screen and look it up right now, but I'll save the mystery. I won't go full Federecci here. Yeah.
Oh, come on, leave the lurk, educate us.
Oh gosh, I guess I could. Well, whatever. I don't have anywhere.
No. I'm talking to Ixnot here.
Oh, Ixnot. Yes, yeah.
If Ixnot comes on, you guys are going to be outnumbered by the Alaska boys.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, I'm the only one who's, I guess, technically not in the Northwest here. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Yep. So, bunch of people on the edges of civilization. These bearded, tatted up cinder types.
There was that one Alaskan vampire movie. It just took place in winter rather than summer.
Yeah?
Yep. Yeah, 30 Days of Night.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
I do think in general it's also like worth just praising the vampire genre as a whole. Dracula is a fantastic novel. It's worth your time. I just say like I return to it every couple of years, and it's rich. It's really really rewarding. Also, it is a great kind of like artifact of kind of like the creep of modernity into the world. Yeah. Like it's very much like the conflict of Dracula is modernizing England versus backwoods, superstitious, old country European aristocrat. And it's a question of like a clash of civilizations.
Yeah. I'd have to dispute Ixon's comment here to some extent. I mean, Ethan's been in Alaska for like 3 months tops. I mean, wait, where's he going?
I only see one Alaskan.
Yeah.
I will say though, if
this is proof. This right here, this is proof I'm Alaskan. There are extra tufts in my home.
Okay.
All right. If Ethan can produce a moose on camera, I will an actual like flesh and blood, living, breathing moose on camera. Then I will cede defeats. But for now, I only see one Alaskan.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely thinking about this. And the other big horror movie of the year so far has been Danny Boyle's 28 Years Later. And while that one seems to deal a little bit more with socio-political and modern kind of issues, I mean, for whatever reason, the vampire films, they tend to modernize more than the zombie movies, I feel like. I mean, the zombie movies, like, there's a sense in which a lot of them are kind of very similar over time. But you think of like the Lost Boys, and you think of, oh gosh, what was Let the Right One In? And I haven't seen it, but I guess there's a Jim Jarmusch vampire film that's apparently pretty popular. Yeah. But, yeah.
Did you see 28 Years Later?
I did. It is excellent. I will say though, if you're queasy, it might not be a film for you at all. It's not super violent. There's actually some kind of gross, nudity in it. It is fairly violent in some scenes too. But
is horror your genre, Sam?
No, I mean,
one of them?
well, I mean, horror's been kind of like the sort of experimental side of mainstream filmmaking, I think, right? In the last like 5 or so years, like I think
the last 30
years.
30 years.
Yeah, well, more recently though, because I feel like sci-fi
like horror is where like we're talking like in the 80s, like because horror typically is a movie that is much cheaper to produce an effective horror movie. So you've got a lot of kind of like early kind of shoestring budget like horror movies, Evil Dead with what's his name? Sam Raimi, Spider-Man guy.
Yeah,
is kind of one of them, but it's typically
Yep.
a great way to get your first movie made with a very like limited budget compared to everything else.
Okay, I guess we're having the Alaskan versus non-Alaskan throwdown. Chris, good to see you. So you can be the one to adjudicate this. Is Ethan an Alaskan?
He does have the extra tough, so I mean, and he's also partly Irish, so I will give him a thumbs up.
All right, you've been certified Alaskan.
So he already.
It's official.
He's an honorary Alaskan at least, so.
I'll take it.
Is that because he has the latent drinking problem already?
That also helps, yes.
Yes, that's funny. But so how do you do this time of year, Chris? I guess you have about 30 minutes of dark a day, Ethan was telling me before.
Sort of. It doesn't really get dark. It gets like twilight, and then the sun comes up again. So
Okay. Does that change like the way your circadian rhythm works, or not really so much? I mean, you still just do your normal thing and.
A little bit, but not a lot. I'm not too affected by the seasonal change in sunlight as much as some other people. I don't have the lamps in the wintertime, so I don't stop me from getting depressed. So
Yeah. Do people stay around during like the weeks of darkness, or do a lot of people try and get out of town if they can?
there are the snowbirds that leave in the winter and come back in the summer, and then there's to be here in the wintertime, you have to be able to handle going outside in the wintertime and do what you can when the sun's up. So
yeah. Alaska, how humid is the climate there? I don't really know, honestly.
it depends on what part you're in. If you're more by the coast, you get more humidity, but then like if you go towards the interior, it gets drier because the moisture doesn't make it over the mountain range, basically.
Yeah, like in the Midwest or the Great Lakes region, I feel like if it's like 10 below, it's almost impossible to be outside. But I remember in Colorado, if you're completely covered, I mean, with the thinner air, you can be outside, and it's not comfortable, but I mean, you're not gonna like be in a lot of like pain the way you are if you're like in Wisconsin or in Michigan when it's below zero in the winter.
Right. Yeah. And there's in Anchorage here, it doesn't get much below -20 in wintertime at most, whereas up in Fairbanks you'll get -40 regularly. So
Yeah. For us lower 48ers, what is like the distance between Anchorage and Fairbanks?
I don't know the distance off the top of my head. I know it's a 6-hour drive if you follow the speed limit, which is about 65 miles an hour.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a decent haul. So you definitely go through more states than one on the East Coast there.
Yeah, and Fairbanks is on the other side of the mountains, basically. So it's more of an
Yeah, so yeah, no, it's yeah, good to. I know I've seen your face before because you were on Ethan's stream, but yeah, I can tell that you see sometimes there's basically one viewer, and I think you're sometimes the loyal viewer. I don't know if we might come
sometimes,
out
yeah.
at a better time of day for you when I do the evening streams than for some people. Uh, yeah. So, but any thoughts on this video or anything?
Oh, this which video? The one that we're on, or the one you were talking about?
Well, I mean, if you have thoughts on centers, that's great too. But I guess I meant more. Was there anything in the discussion today that yeah really got your noggin going?
Not that I can think of right now. I mean, you were talking about centers or whatever that I haven't seen, but it did remind me of Crossroads with Ralph Macchio. So
Yeah, this is what we need to talk about. What is Crossroads?
Yeah, exactly. We can't
Ralph.
Google these apparently.
So Ralph Macchio, he's a kid in like music school studying classical music, but he really wants to be a blues guitar player. And so he goes off and finds this old guy who, along with Robert, who like after Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil for guitar skills, this guy sold his soul to the devil for harmonica skills. And so Ralph Macchio goes and wanders around with him for a bit, and then has to have a guitar play off with like one of Satan's minions to get the old guy's soul back at the end.
Huh. What do you think the odds are if I just like streamed a reaction, like if we went Mystery Theater 3000 style on my channel, that we'd get a copyright infringement of this?
You probably would. I don't
Yeah.
I don't think it's open source enough or whatever, or out of copyright enough to not get copyright struck. So
yeah, probably we'll stay away from that. Maybe maybe in Chicago we could have a movie night and watch this masterpiece. But yeah, so we could get the projector going, get the popcorn at the yeah, go to the campsite. So actually, I won't be at the campsite. Or the Irving camping. I think it's really a large backyard area. Yeah. So, but yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not camping, but I do like fires, so I'm not against visiting.
So, well, I was more than a little bit surprised when, yeah, when Moises said it was by his house, because Moises's house is like right next. It's a, I don't know. It's technically a brown. It's not a brownstone, but it's that style of house, and like a kind of older style, like level on top of level, narrow home, and it's right next to one of the L trains in Chicago. Like his church is near there, and like yeah, you could feel it shaking the sanctuary when the trains would cross. So yeah, but
is he trying to get us to set up tents on the sidewalk underneath the bridge? Is that what this is?
It's an Airbnb. It looked nice. I'm going to be on my bicycle, honestly, so and that's quite a distance from the place in Elmwood. So yeah, it's not going to work out for me.
Are you bicycling from Michigan to Midwestern?
Okay, so I'm taking the Amtrak to Chicago, and then it is about 30 miles to Elmwood from there. So, yeah. So, yeah, no, the Amtrak lines, there's like 3 of them you can take a bicycle on, and one of them happens to be the Great Lakes line, which, yeah, actually goes to Port Huron. It doesn't go to Detroit. They converge in Battle Creek, though. So I'll drive up and catch it in East Lansing, and then take it over and then bicycle while I'm in Chicago. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah, any other thoughts, Chris? Or I mean,
oh no. Oh, as I was about to jump on, you were saying something about Let the Right One In.
Oh yeah,
the other vampire movie.
Yeah, we were talking about vampire movies in general, and let the right one in. It was probably circa, if I'm saying something off, about the late 2000s, and there was a Swedish and an English language version of it. And
I think I saw that one with subtitles. So
yeah. I believe I've seen both, and like basically the Hollywood version was almost a straight reshooting of the Swedish version, and it's in that. So I mean, vampirism has I know Matt was talking about it as kind of the sacramental horror genre. And it fills in for the idea of different vices, and in I think I know there's various films where it's the idea of almost like drug kind of addiction, and Let the Right One In. It's kind of it's a coming of age vampire film, right? I would say kind of. Like the symbology is that it's about puberty and growing up, and I don't know, discovering that you want to eat people, I guess.
Well,
or maybe that's about push back.
I don't know if it's coming of age. It's about the movie's called Let the Right One In, but they don't do that. They fall victim to the vampire girl. So. And that's like what happened before, and what the little boy does too. Yeah. So,
right, because it was the question of I think the start of the movie is they know that the girl and her caretaker are not related, and I think the concern was that the caretaker was a serial killer, and they were trying to save the girl from him, whereas he was trying to contain her, or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, it's the caretaker guy. He's taking care of the little girl who is the vampire, and but that's kind of how it ends, is with the little boy taking over as her caretaker. So
yep.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of years since I've seen that movie. I do remember liking it. It's I don't know, more of a art house kind of film than Sinners.
Yeah.
Is. So, I was gonna, see if Ethan comes back. I was gonna ask him if he wanted to plug anything before I signed off. But okay. Let's see. Maybe we can judge by his skill playing if Ethan has sold his soul potentially.
Well, he's a ginger, so he can't have. But
also, remember, in all of these stories, the devil always loses. He's not actually that good of a guitar player.
Yeah. So apparently he loses at banjo too. So apparently he's not even
banjo, fiddle,
musician generally. Yes, but I was gonna say, when you were explaining the plot line of Crossroad with Ralph Macchio, I couldn't help but thinking, man, it sounds like that guy kind of got ripped off for his soul. I mean, he only got to be the harmonica guy, whereas Robert Johnson got the guitar.
Inflation.
So only what it used to be.
Now I gotta ask the question: how much did Bart Simpson get for his solo in that one Simpson episode?
I
think it wasn't.
I don't remember.
Was that a canonical Simpsons or was it a Treehouse of Horror?
I think it was canonical.
Okay. Uh, hmm. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. Yeah. Apparently, well, I won't give the real spoilers away. Apparently, there were some happenings with the Simpsons, but yeah, at the end of the season.
Wait,
I'm not tracking Simpsons lore.
I
And
haven't
it really
watched
was,
it regularly in a while.
but okay, good for them, I guess. Good luck.
Fine. I'll say it. Apparently, Marge might have died, so I haven't even
No,
watched it.
Hey,
I mean, their voice actors are getting up there.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So, Julie Kavner, the lady who does Marge, so like most of the voice actors on The Simpsons are doing multiple characters, and they're like doing like a performance, but that actually is her voice, basically. I mean, there's obviously a performance aspect to it, but that's her. And yeah, there's only one film I've seen her in, but she wasn't a young person in like the 80s. So yeah, I would be surprised if she's calling it quits. When I looked up, she was 74. So she could, in theory, do it for longer. But I mean, I don't know. If she wants to, retire, I don't think anyone will blame her. So, let's see her.
yeah. I mean, they could
Um,
also recast her if they needed
yeah.
to. I mean, they swapped out the Rick and Morty voices, and it's like an 85% success rate, I think, as far as you can tell a little bit, I guess. But
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they could. So don't get Ethan going about when they replaced Whitaker. That did not go well. He gives that look. He knows what I'm talking about. So yeah. How about so anything you wanna anyone wants to promote? Thanks again, Chris, for coming on. I'm glad to. Yeah, feel free to. Yeah, even though like we haven't, I dropped the link like kind of late in the video. I'm not too worried about getting overwhelmed with people, so feel free to jump in if the link's there. Yeah, on our other videos too. So I think almost everything I'm doing will probably be live because it's just so much easier to upload, honestly. So, and I'm lazy, but yeah. So, but yeah. Thanks again.
I
Yeah.
got something to plug. I am putting together a writing packet for Midwestuary.
Okay.
I'm looking like I am accepting submissions for a
Wait,
zine. So if you
how
want to
about
write a thing,
So I was gonna say, why don't you take us out with a view of the ocean, Matt? So how about
okay.
actually, I'm gonna pull the three of us off stage, and why don't you tell us about it, and then yeah, we'll get a closing shot of the
Okay.
ocean before the sign off today. So thanks again, yeah, Ethan, Matt, Chris. All right, so stay curious, Questarians.
Do.
Right, and I'm looking to publish a zine for distribution at Midwestuary. So I am accepting writing submissions now. If you feel like you can put together a page worth of coherent thoughts, I would love to have them. Yeah, hit me up on Twitter. That's probably the best way to find me.
Yeah, sounds great, Deb. So tell us about where you're at exactly. I mean, I know you're somewhere in Washington State, but yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking at the Puget Sound. I won't totally like locale dox myself, but I like essentially I live in and around the Seattle area, and so this is the lovely Puget Sound. Um,
Yeah. Sunny and 85 degrees today. It's a glorious day to be at the beach, even if your beach is full of barnacle-y rocks.